Hello everybody, I'm going to do a quick clip here on this chainsaw, get it working. My wife's uncle had died, maybe a year ago or so, and this was at his place and they gave it to me. It's an old Craftsman chainsaw, not sure how old it is, but you can see it looks like it's only been through maybe one log. It practically is brand new, but I put gas in and it did fire up and then it started cutting out on me and quit. Got the cover loose here. Basically it's simple. The fuel line was off here, so I tried to put it on. It's just totally brittle. So I got to pull the carb out and put some new fuel line on it. I think I have a piece around here somewhere, but I can't seem to find it, so I may have to go get some. You can see it's dumped gas. So gonna do a quick R&R on this and see if I can get this thing running, because we had an ice storm come through and my pecan tree in the backyard lost not big limbs, but quite a few limbs that I need to hack up and get rid of. So I'm gonna pull the carb off. Like I said, it looks like it's only been used maybe once or twice at the most. So things are never as quick and easy as they seem, are they? Well, I had to take a lot more of it apart than I wanted to, just to get the carburetor off. But I don't know how well that shows up, but this thing is super clean. This saw is brand new. It's just got some old line on it. Here's one of them. You can see how it's actually not too bad in the middle. Out here towards the end, see, it just broke right in two just by bending it in half. It's got two sizes on it, large one and a small one. I can't find my pieces, so off to the hardware store I go. But I can't complain about this at all, because this was absolutely, at no cost to me. I had an old McCullough chainsaw for years that I got from my dad after he wore it out, and I rebuilt it and it worked fine. Then it started fighting me like all your lawn equipment does. Seems like you spend more time working on them than you do using them. So I'll get the parts and I'll put in there, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know about changing stuff like this. But the thing that I've always had trouble with is if you don't get the absolute right size of hose, and there's a couple holes down in there where they go in, they're just squeezed through into the tank, like on a weed eater or something like that. If you can't get it just right, those things always end up leaking anyway. So hopefully I'll get lucky on this, and then I'll see if we can get a clip of it running. Should work. Need to check the bar oil and see if I've got it. Well, I'm back from the hardware store. I got a foot of each size of line, some chain oil, about $8 out the door. These things are only 59-69 cents a foot. They're not exactly the right size. I would have hoped to have gotten a little bit better, but I think they're going to work. The ID on this one's a little bit small, but we're going to see what we can do. That's all I've got to work with. Now, there are two holes down in the tank. You can't see this. I apologize. I'm having to sit on the floor to film this. Got my shop kind of messed up from a different project, so working on the floor. One of them will come out of the tank. It had this little white fitting on it here that was just brought all the way up to the top. So I'll have to fish it down and through, come out the end, put the fitting on and pull it all back. And then it loops up to the primer bulb, and then from the primer bulb it goes to one side of the carburetor right here. And then the other one feeds down into this hole here, and on the other end of that, that's your filter. Look how clean that filter is. Brand new. It's getting dirty now because I've got it sitting on the floor. But anyway, sometimes getting these lines in is a pain. So just a little tip, what I do is I take a pair of snips or scissors and I cut them off at a real sharp angle, and then maybe lubricate them, not with like an oil or something, just a little bit of water, maybe even some spit, and push it down in there, and then try to grab it with needle nose through the tank hole, pull it out, put your filter on, and then draw it back up in, and then make your connections to the carburetor last. I'm not really going heavily off into doing this stuff because each one you work on is going to be totally different, but that's just the general principle. It's really basic, easy stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. One of these, like I said, was a little bit smaller on the ID. What you can also do is either take a lighter, a heat gun or something, and lightly warm this up, and then you can form it over there and let it cool, and it'll help you bell it out. sometimes you can take a little awl or something and stick it in there temporarily, and it'll bring it out just enough to where you can get it on, then it'll squeeze back on its own. So I'll do what I need to do there as I get to it. But I'm going to stick it in and put it back together, and we'll see. Alright, well, I've got the lines pulled in from the outside of the tank. The big one, after you bring them out, you just lop them off straight. This one's going to get that little fitting here, and then I'll draw it all back to where it sits where it was. Fuel lines on, same principle. You leave more fuel line in the tank. These usually lay in the bottom of the tank. But when you talk about things that happen, and I manifested a problem, it wasn't the night before last, I believe. One of my viewers I've been talking with said that he really loved his bent nose, long handled snap-on needle nose pliers, and I said I had a straight pair that I really loved, and they're not here, and I could use both. I had to use both. So one of my friends lives across the street. Here's his Mac pair, long handles, and then he had this other pair. It's like a boot puller, maybe a spark plug socket or something, but I was able to get in there and grab those hoses and pull them out. But it just goes to show you, when you talk about things, they happen. So I guarantee you, next time I go over to my dad's, my long handle pair is coming home with me. Alright, well, I got it all put back together. It's dark now. I'm going to open up the door and try to fire it up outside. But it probably took me about an hour to do it, and that included going to the store and borrowing tools from a neighbor. So not too bad. I did find a date on it. This is actually 1999. Can you believe that? About 14 years old, I would guess. So let me put a little bit of gas in it. Alright, well, it's going to be a cold start, so I'll probably chop this video a little bit, let it warm up. Got to get some gas in it. Good as new. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck.